The world around us is hard, but it's the one thing I think in the films I've made, from Company of Wolves to my new film, The Limehouse Golem, we have to look at how we treat people, because it's not good. You know, we have to be more tolerant, really, I suppose. I think very clearly for me in the films I've made is that we should all take a look at the world and not assume that what we're told is true. Examine and evaluate. A lot of stories that we think were true, like when I made Scandal, or the story in Carol, or the story in Michael Collins, or even fantasy stories, we are given lies all the time about all sorts of things. We stigmatize people. Even with the Crying Game. Crying Game had an IRA, a member of the IRA who was on the run, who was trying to be good. We humanized terrorists. We made human. In Carol, we showed that two women in love is beautiful, not a bad thing. The media pretend that it throws up demons all the time, and it lies. And a lot of my films, a lot of the films I produce with my producing partner Elizabeth, are about trying to help people to understand that the world is actually full of fantastic people, and everybody should be should not be, because of their color or their gender or because of their religion, be categorized or assumed to be good or bad, that as we all have a place in the world. So I hope in the films I've made, I hope people can see that that they may seem subversive, but they're not subversive. They are trying to show that the world is a good place and not a bad place, but that people try and make the world bad by using by feeding on people's fears and trying to pit us against each other, when in fact we should all be trying to work together and understand each other. So I hope a little bit that in the films I've made there is some sense of there being a good world out there and giving people a little bit of hope. Now we have so much media that television is no longer, movies are no longer as effective. They're no longer a direct route into people's imagination. Cinema is still important, but there are other important media as well. So it no longer has the power of great force that it did when Mussolini and Churchill and Roosevelt were engaged in that period of time, because then it was the king. And now cinema has become part of things, but it's still powerful, but it doesn't have ultimate power. Probably now other media have stronger power. I mean, if we look at, for instance, when Donald Trump became president, he was the star of a reality TV show. And people believed the reality TV show. They believed that when they saw Donald Trump giving orders and telling people about how they should spend their money or live their lives, that people believed the character. It was an unreal character. In the same way that people believed movies. When they saw Ronald Reagan as a movie star, they believed that was the person that was that they could elect for president. So I think films are no longer as persuasive or powerful as they were. Telling a story over 2 hours or 2.5 hours or 1.5 hours even in a cinema, it still has a power, because you are absorbed in that world. There are no distractions. When you download, when you watch TV, you're distracted. Whereas cinema has power and to get into the psyche, and therefore has a stronger, and because it's more considered, it has a power as an art form. So I think it still has a very strong position in the world, but it doesn't dominate anymore, because I think the media itself is now more powerful. We are, in a bit of a dilemma, because the technology is also changing. So we no longer shoot on 35mm, we shoot on digital, we can create all these special effects. And because television is now more expensive, so things like Game of Thrones or big TV series are now competing with television. Because the way we watch now, when we go home, we have these screens which are huge, and the sound and effects. And we look at Game of Thrones and we think we're watching a movie. And that's difficult for cinema, in the cinema as we know it, as we love cinema. It's difficult for us to compete with that now. So it's interesting times for us, I think, as filmmakers.